All right, a solicitation here for Ewoks number 15. The only problem is Ewoks only ran to issue 14. This is a description, the only one that we know officially, of what would have been the last issue of the Ewoks run from Marvel Star Comics. That's right, this is another video about a Marvel Age, Marvel News magazine, in this case issue 53 from August 1987, that highlights a little bit of lost, canceled, expanded universe. Great cover here, by the way. Sort of the Byrne era looking She-Hulk and the early incarnations of Rogue and Storm. A lot of fun. It's the sort of the summer issue. Jumping to page 3 here, again we get a detailed description of what Ewoks 15 would have looked like. Fleeing from the evil Dulocs, the Ewoks, Wicked, and Teebo discover the lost city of Endor La. Now Dulocs, by the way, are the green-looking Grinch-like character that you see throughout the cartoon show. They actually first appear in the EU in 1984 in a children's book, sort of a tie-in to Return of the Jedi, called The Adventures of Teebo, A Tale of Magic and Suspense. Teebo, by the way, is a character who is in Return of the Jedi and appears throughout the Ewoks-related expanded universe and beyond. They discover the lost city of Endor La, obviously a reference to Shangri-La. That's kind of cutesy. A place of peace and goodwill, which leads them into more trouble than they imagined. So it would have been titled The Hidden City and would have been written by Dave Manak. Now, interestingly, recently, Joe Bongiorno, who runs StarWarsTimeline.net, was actually in touch with Dave Manak about anything he might be able to contribute about his recollection about this issue. According to Dave Manak, he just doesn't remember writing anything, which is plausible. It's possible they didn't even get down to scripting. And in any event, it's just lost to his memory. So we can sort of write off ever seeing anything more beyond this here, which makes this Marvel Age issue 53 from August 1987 an important piece of EU, because it's the only place where we get anything official regarding what would have been issue 15. It's interesting to note that this is something that was, licensed, put together, solicited, right? It was something that would have in theory been ready to go. So you can kind of stretch your imagination a little bit and sort of basically I don't know, include this scenario into the EU timeline. It doesn't actually appear any way beyond this, but doesn't necessarily seem to contradict anything we know, right? And wouldn't really be in danger of doing that anyway. It seems pretty insignificant in some sense, right? They go ahead and find a lost city on Endor. Would have been a fun little cartoonish adventure, but again, nothing too earth-shattering that it would necessarily sort of butt up against any other sort of known continuity. So it's kind of fun to think that that in reality this actually is, this lost issue really still is in some sense part of the EU. Star Comic was kind of fun. I somewhere have a big Star Comic poster that prominently features the Ewoks comics. They published that. They published after issue 14, there were several different annuals, both in North America and the UK. Obviously, there were the Droids comics as well. These were republished a number of different places. They've been republished recently, actually, in a full-scale Marvel Omnibus hardcover of Droids and Ewoks. You can find them in lots of other places, too, collected in the modern era. Back in the day, Star Comics, which, again, was just an imprint of Marvel Comics, they used to put out these every other month or so, these digest-size magazines, Star Comics magazines, and they would feature some of these early Ewoks issues. So it was a place to get caught up on them and everything else that Star Comics was doing, like Heathcliff Comics and like Alf Comics and whatever else they did. They did a lot of media tie-in, Transformers, and God, maybe they even did like Silverhawks. I mean, they just did a lot of stuff that wasn't your traditional Marvel superhero stuff, but that Marvel nonetheless sort of had the intellectual property rights to publish stories about. But Star Comics was fun. It was definitely a bit more kiddish, as was, Ewoks and Droids and whatnot back in the day. But it's a fun thing to look back on. It's whenever you think that Star Wars is getting a little too serious, you can kind of jump back into some of these little comics where at the end of the day, they're just going on fun little adventures and going to Endor La to get into lots of trouble and stuff. But a fun little collectible, very easy to find, Marvel Age 53, and an important part of the ongoing quest to find absolutely everything there is to know about what happened in the EU timeline.